Hey folks, it's Greg McCone from Fraser Valley Climate Action. Welcome back to part 3 of our review of Nat Bullard's excellent slide deck looking at decarbonization in 2025. We'll get right into it. We left off on this slide, skewed dollars, skewed growth, and we'll move right on from there. Still green and sustainability linked loan issuance topped 1 trillion again, but did not reach 2021's high. So something amazing happened in 2021, I guess. It does look, if we sort of cut out 2021, like we've got sort of a steady increase there. Maybe it's leveling out a little bit, but good to know. The Larry letter, I don't know what that means. Sustainability and climate mentions in BlackRock's annual CEO letter. I'm guessing that guy's name is Larry. Peaked in 2020 and then presumably reduced. So 2020, 2021, we had some amazing climate events. You know, disasters made worse by climate. Wonder if that has something to do with it. The annual word count for these reports has skyrocketed in the last 2 years. Interesting stats. Leaving net zero. Big institutions are leaving Net Zero Banking Alliance and the Net Zero Asset Managers Alliance. This seems like a bad thing. So look at the dates: 2025, early 2024. All these banks are like, yeah, we're not going to participate in that anymore. Who knows? Maybe there were, personal issues or something like that. But generally speaking, wouldn't you want to stay connected to climate-related finance groups so that your products aren't investing in global warming, but instead you're cleaning up the planet using those dollars for good? I think that's the point of the slide. It's problematic. 1 trillion in sustainable AUM. Guys, I don't know what that means. Oh, assets under management. Oh my goodness, I figured it out. So this is good. Sustainable assets is growing. Okay, good to know. Not quite to a T. Energy transition funds under management are approaching 1 trillion. Okay, I think that's the same sort of information as the last one. ESG, environmental sustainability goals. Is that what that is? Um, or ethical sustainable growth. I don't know. ETFs and mutual funds continue to gain share. Yeah, if we're going to put our money into something, we want to invest in something that's going to make the world a better place. We don't want to be like, polluting and giving kids cancer and crap like that to make money. That's not making money. That's being evil. Okay, from 30 billion to 50 billion, tax equity transferability has created an additional 20 billion of funds in 1 year. I have no idea what that means. Moving on. Climate, then environment. Climate and environment are more salient investment issues than social or governance matters. That's interesting. Well, when it comes to climate, we're talking about physics. We're talking about it's just the laws of nature. Like you just got to deal with it. You can't put it on pause when it's inconvenient. Things like governance and social, maybe that can be addressed in other ways. Climate tops the board. Look at that. Top 5 issues: 78, 48, 46, 41. Interesting. Net zero pledges, supply chain sustainability. These all seem like good things, right? Getting more attention than things like data security, leadership diversity, workforce diversity. Those are good things too. We want those. Employee pay is surprisingly low. That's not good, guys. Board structure, governance. Moving right along. Private CAGRs. I know people use acronyms because they think it saves time, and this isn't a criticism of Nat Bullard. I'm not a finance guy, but honestly, like the acronyms just make it inscrutable. So look at this, a bunch of numbers going up. Doesn't mean anything to me. Okay, moving right along. Uh, Rating the register. A ranking of registered carbon products. Uh-oh. Finds very few projects are A rated or better. You've heard of like carbon offsets, those sorts of things, right? Somebody says like, oh, we're growing a whole bunch of trees on a plot of land, and if you give us money, it'll pay for the farm. And so when you drive your big polluting diesel car, or you take a flight, you can pay us money so you can feel better about polluting because we're doing something good over here. Look at the ratings on these. Not great. What happens when a wildfire goes through and burns down the forest? Do we get a refund? Nope. Greenwashing has been like epidemic level, guys. Canada just passed a law meaning if people are going to, make environmental claims, they have to be able to back them up. Holy crow! The chemical and oil and gas industries lost their stuff. It was amazing. So greenwashing seems to be down a little bit. So there's risks by region, by severity. Okay. People got to stop lying. It's not helping. Cleaning up in 2021. Yeah, something amazing happened in 2021. The pandemic and all, but the clean energy index peaked in 2021. That's interesting. Didn't know there was one of those. Something to see if I can invest in. Exchange traded down. Shares outstanding in the flagship clean energy exchange traded fund peaked in 2021. Oh yeah, so it's going down. So maybe not a good investment. A pandemic surge. Um, Mentions of ESG in corporate earning calls are a third what they are. These sorts of analysis kind of useful and easy to do. Just find how many references there were and write the number down. But look how many corporate calls they're going through. So many. Glad they're doing that work in an automated fashion. Check the transcript. Climate change mentions spiked in corporate earning calls in 2021. We know that 2021 was kind of amazing that way. Was that wasn't the same time that Greta was going around to all the cities, eh? I'm not sure. She did some amazing work growing awareness. ESG roles are barely increasing today. Okay. It's maybe not helpful. Either we got everybody we need or we're not continuing to row the boat in that direction. That's a bit of a problem. Launching across the Atlantic. ESG fund launches in the US and Europe peaked in 2022. More saying we're not making as much progress as we were. Sustainable funds flow in and out. Well, that kind of draws a clear picture, doesn't it? Raising alternatives. Alternative assets soared. Alternative assets sounds like a band. Net zero banking year. The Net Zero Banking Alliance signed up 2/3 of its members in the first 9 months in 2021. Good. And then either they all got signed up or who knows. A number of new sustainable finance taxonomies. Okay, so classifications makes sense. Walmart's scope 1 and 2 emissions ticked up for 2 years after reaching their low. Okay, I wish I had the definition at hand for this. So scope 1 emissions and scope 2 emissions, if you don't know the term, basically it's like one of these scopes is like the office, right? Like we use recycled paper in the photocopier, and we get coffee from that sustainable place, and the lights, we have an agreement with the power company to use green energy and not coal energy. Like that's one of those scopes. And so you can have the most polluting company in the world. Maybe that's Exxon. I'm not sure which one it is, but one of those companies, and they can be like, no, our VPs all drive electric vehicles, and there's sort of like this operations sort of category, and they love to say we're greening our operations, and that's kind of the administrative side of things. There's like, and I might be getting this backwards. The other scope is like the production, like the machines and the actual building and the manufacturing, and is there pollutants leaking out of the factory, right? And that's like scope 2. And then scope 3 is like the products themselves. So you can imagine for an oil and gas company, like every product that they produce is going to get lit on fire and go into the atmosphere. So they're extremely happy to talk about like scope 1 and scope 2, but not to talk about scope 3. Just don't bother us with it. It's like what other people do with oil is up to them. It's not our responsibility. It's like the drug dealer not taking responsibility for it. Those drugs are going to kill people. Um, as long as the drug dealer is like clean and wears a nice suit and drives an electric vehicle, like why would we want to arrest those guys? I don't know. There's my terrible analogy. I'll move right along. 100 billion plus of US EV and battery manufacturing investment was announced in 2021 and 2022. A number of manufacturers for sure. I remember announcements from GM, Ford, Stellantis, and I mean Tesla's been doing some amazing work. Peaking down under. Formation of climate tech startups in Australia peaked in 2021. So this is kind of a theme, eh? In 2021, things were kind of like moving at a rapid pace, and then they've all kind of slowed down. Look at this. There's 500 startups to try and remove carbon dioxide. using enhanced weathering, using ocean-based solutions, using bio and soil-based solutions, using direct air capture, using forestry. Now, it doesn't mean they're successful or viable. It means they're trying to figure it out. And we definitely can think of some examples of terrible implementations where the carbon's being captured and pumped down the well to get more oil out, which would make it carbon positive, not carbon negative, right? But they're doing it. They're doing the DAC, so they get the federal grant. So there's some good BS out there. Interesting, sustainable aviation fuel. Now, I don't know what sustainable means in aviation fuel, but look at that. There's agreements. I don't know what an offtake announcement is. Sorry, not financially literate. So it looks like there was a spike in 22 and then down in 24. Okay. Voluntary carbon market credit issuance and market value peaked in 2021. So, I mean, maybe this was the green bubble bursting. I don't know. Kind of raises the question, right? There are climate policies. There's now 3,500 climate adaptation or mitigation policies. This is coming from Climate Change Laws of the World, Grantham Research Institute, London School of Economics, Climate Policy Radar. Good. Cumulative policies since 1980. Okay, so we had like a really slow start. There's that S curve, right? And so the policies are getting put in place. Hopefully they start having an effect, right? A litigious environment. Climate change litigation peaked in 2021, 2022. Kind of makes sense. If you spend 50 years lying to the public about what your product does, and we can measure how much more likely or severe terrible storms were because of climate change, and your product was responsible for 10% of climate change. Like, it seems like you should be able to do the math on this and ascribe some sort of responsibility there. Power complex. Okay, we're getting close to the end of this third section. Just want to acknowledge that. Greening Europe. The EU now generates more power from wind and solar than from fossil fuels. Okay, I see the lines crossing there. 1,300 terawatt hours. Dude, that's so much power. It's amazing. That's absolutely phenomenal. Okay, good. And look at the trend, right? Like fossils dropping. Did a little dipsy doodle, now it's going down again. This is good news. We need to see this continue. We need to see wind and solar continue to grow. And given the cost, oh, look at this. Solar. Global solar installations approached 600 gigawatts in 2024. This is annual capacity installed. So, like installing 100 gigawatts was a lot, and now it's not. Now we're installing 600 gigawatts. Thank you, China. I know China is kicking butt in this area. It's amazing. And for wind, not as big as solar, but truly impressive. Offshore is light blue, onshore is dark blue. Notice how there wasn't really any offshore at the beginning, and then people figured out how to do it and invested in ships and technologies. And then, 2021, 2022, there's some significant offshore investment there. Pretty cool. So, rising volume, declining share. There is now more than 6 gigawatts of off-grid photovoltaics solar installed, and its share has never been smaller. So this is so important. People think like solar is like for the motorhome or the cabin in the woods, or honestly, it's for the rail switches along the rail lines in the middle of nowhere, right? It's for lighting that isn't connected to anything else. It's for remote communities, of course, but it's getting grid connected, and it's being deployed closer to home as the cost of solar continues to drop. Now, people aren't using solar just because there's no other option. They're using solar because it's cost effective or not polluting. And look at that percentage of off-grid just dropping and dropping and dropping like a rock until off-grid is going to be almost nothing. But it's growing gigawatts, right? So that's pretty good. I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for your time. This is the end of part 3, and we'll pick up here and continue this review of Nat Bullard's excellent visuals on decarbonization. Details are in the description. Go and check out their website.